Okay, welcome to the Board Game BBQ Podcast. This is episode 323, brought to you by Advent Games, More Than Meeples, and our wonderful Patreons. I'm your host for today, Dana Banana, and I'm joined here by Dan. Hi, Dan.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. We are actually missing our third person.
Well, he's not here, but I'm not missing him.
Our Adrian, unfortunately, at the last minute, pulled up unwell. So I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to put up with Dan and myself.
Easy. I'm not going to attempt the accent, although it's probably not. He doesn't have that English accent anymore. He swears more Aussie than
he does
than
have
most
an accent.
Aussie, I know.
I think he does have an accent.
Yeah,
I notice it.
Mellowed over the last few years.
Oh, I suppose I notice it straight away.
Anyway, get well, 80.
Yeah. Hope he gets well soon. But how have you been, Dan? What have you been up to?
I've been great. Well, as I mentioned 5 weeks ago, I said I was going to take off the month of November to pursue other creative endeavours. Most namely, I was having a crack at NaNoWriMo, and which is the National Novel Writing Month. It's actually an international challenge where the task is set to write 50,000 words in the space of 30 days, which is roughly 1,600 words a day, which sounds doable. I say sounds doable because look, I should reach out first. I should say first and foremost, thanks to everyone who did reach out on socials and just in my DMs and stuff and just said, hey, how's it going? And I was sort of keeping a few people updated. So those that are interested, in terms of the 50,000 word challenge, I did not succeed with the challenge itself. It proved to be a very, very tall order. I successfully wrote just a smidge under 21,000 words. And that's with I had about a week off where I didn't do a whole lot of writing because I felt a bit ill and stuff. But having said that, that's just for the month of November. I'm over 21,000 words now because I'm still continued to write. It's one of those things where it's a bit of an itch now that I just have to scratch. The idea has percolated in my head to the point where I need to just keep going. And one of the hardest things, if anyone who's ever done any sort of creative writing or any kind of creative endeavor, momentum is key. And if you lose momentum, it's a bit hard to get back on the horse sometimes. So still going to persevere. It's still something that I want to finish. I'm sort of thoroughly enjoying just the process of it all. Like there was one day where actually I took a day off work and just tried to devote a whole bunch of time to write. Because the thing with NaNoWriMo is it sort of graphs your progress. And so you've got your word count and then you've got the estimated word count of where you should be at each day. And it's as it starts to get away from you, it's just hanging over your head, this your bar graph, your line of progress and the actual line of progress where you should be at to achieve the 50,000 words in the course of a month. And it just starts to creep up further and they start to get further and further apart as you're not sort of meeting your daily targets. And so I decided to go to a cafe. I sat out, ordered lunch, had a coffee and just wrote for about nearly 3 hours straight. And it's just, I don't know, it just felt good. It just felt like, hey, look at me, I'm a writer.
How does it track your words? Because I thought you were doing it on pencil and paper.
I was just keying it in every day just to keep myself honest and keep track of progress. And it gives you little badges. It kind of gamifies it a little bit as you progress. You go, but you're right. No, I did decide to pen and paper it. Which in itself was an interesting experience. It was something that I picked up from listening to a couple of podcasts with Neil Gaiman. That's how he does it, initially with his first draft, because it's more of just a brain dump. You got to just accept the fact that your first draft's not going to be publishable. So you're just dumping it straight out. But doing it with pen and paper stops you from editing, self-editing. And I know that in the past I've done that where I've used Microsoft Word or something like that to write, and then you stop and you delete and you reword that, and then you cross that and then you delete that and you rewrite it. And after an hour, you might not have don't feel like you've achieved a whole lot because you've just gone back over and over different things. And I also find that, weirdly, I can write at the speed that I think, but I can't type at the speed that I think. My fingers get sort of tangled up a little bit. So I can keep up with my brain when I write. And then also the other thing is to write in just a yellow lined notepad, just to have all that, just turn the page and keep going, turn the page and keep going. And then you've just got like 30 pages of just handwritten.
It feels good. It must feel good.
It genuinely feels like I've accomplished something. So it's funny. If I was using a word processor and I didn't meet my 50,000 words, I would probably feel a lot more disappointed. Even though I've only done 21 odd, or probably at 23 now, I've got the notes. I've got the notepad just full of like page after page after page after page of writing. So I feel like I've actually achieved something since November 1. So yeah, completely loved it. So, but again, thanks to everyone who who was
And this has been a
checking in.
childhood dream,
I
hasn't
wanted to
it?
be a writer ever since I was a kid. I wanted to be a writer.
Is there a specific genre that you like to write?
This particular genre is probably loosely referred to as. Do you want to hear the synopsis?
Go,
I've got it on my phone.
Sell it to me.
So the working title is the Yesterday Lane Murders, and the synopsis is: a serial killer is on the loose in the laneways of Melbourne, and a small-time investigator is dragged into the chaos, which is bringing the city to the brink of a gangland war. But the biggest threat may not be the city's criminal underworld, but a mysterious other world.
Oh, that sounds fascinating.
And I've been having a lot of fun with it. The genesis of it came. I've always been fascinated by the laneways of Melbourne.
Yes.
And the laneways off the laneways where suddenly you've got the normal footpath and then you've got like these brick lanes and then you turn another corner and suddenly it's cobblestone lanes because it's a throwback to the history of Melbourne. I've always been fascinated by the laneways and little doorways and little bars and sort of speakeasies and things that still exist, but you don't necessarily know about them. So it's almost like the city has two separate lives. You've got the 9 to 5 day to day. Everyone's going up, down Burke Street, Collins Street and stuff. But then at night, all the other laneways and stuff sort of come alive. And yeah, that's always been something of interest. And that was kind of like the kernel of the idea behind this little, it's essentially a mystery, which I've never written a mystery before. So it's interesting in itself trying to create a mystery and then work your way backwards.
So you had a month off without games. Did you not? You didn't play anything?
Yeah. I did play a little bit, but I used games as a reward. I used games as my reward. So if I was hitting my target, then I would play a bit of a game. And I would even put them close to me just as an incentive to, okay, I want to try and get to this particular word counter. I want to do these particular pages. So yeah, and one of the games that was my reward actually is a game on Tabletop Simulator at the moment called Skara Brae from friends of the show, Shem Phillips. It's a bit funny talking about it now because the Kickstarter has ended. The Kickstarter was earlier in the year where Garfield Games, Skara Brae, and The Anarchy from Bobby Hill were a double bill for Garfield Games. And I had an opportunity to play test The Anarchy a couple of times. I didn't get a chance to play Skara Brae, but just recently I was listening to Lens and Veil, which is Garfield Games' new podcast.
Yes, I've seen it in the community. Yeah,
exactly. So it's Shem Phillips, it's Sam McDonald, and Sam Phillips. The three of them. And episode 5, I think, was talking about Skara Brae, and they really get into the weeds of these games. I think the most recent episode that just came out last week, the week before, was all about Scythe. So I definitely recommend checking that one out as well. But Skara Brae, because it's Shem's game, he was really talking about what motivated him to create it, and sort of it's similar to Legacy of You, which is a game that I love as a solo gamer. And he was sort of talking about how it started, and they started with cards, and then they went, well, that's not really going to work. So then they moved to the kernel of the idea was always there, but the methodology and the mechanics kind of changed and evolved as they all sort of play tested it to the point where it got to where it is now. And this is a fantastic game. It's still available on TTS. I recommend checking it out if you're keen. It's a resource management game. So if you've played Legacy of You, it's Legacy of You on steroids. Can we still say something on steroids, even though Mitch is gone?
Yeah.
There are 16 different resources in this game.
Holy crap.
I know, but it's really, really well done and super, super clever. So essentially what you're doing is you're in charge of this village, and it's a throwback to, I'm not even going to try and remember what century it is, but the whole thing with Skara Brae and that culture way back when, I want to say Scotland, but it's a lot of the village is all about their natural resources. So they've got their maize and they've got their wool and wood, and it's coastal, so they've got seaweed or kelp and seashells and stuff. And they have a thing. They have also midden, which is essentially the rubbish that is created. Shem talks about it on the podcast how midden was always a factor, and so they were very, very conscious of not wasting their food. Like if they, like in the game, for instance, if you have a cow, you can cook the cow, and not only do you get food for your village, but you also get the hide, you also get the bones, and then they can actually be used to create other things as well, such as furnishings. And so that's why there's so many different resources in this game. Like you get all these different things and you're trying to manage all your resources, but also you need to make sure you feed your villagers. And then the midden is all the waste that accumulates in your village. So your inventory is super, super limited. And the way they do that is really clever because it's just a grid a 3 by, let's say it's 3 by 10 grid. But only the first column or the first two columns is visible, and there's a slider that you increase the slider along the bar, if you like, along the inventory, to free up more space so you can put more stuff in, because you are going to need additional animals, which then if you cook the animals, you produce food, but then you'll have more bones and more hides. That actually almost creates even more resources than you started with in your inventory. And so as this slider moves along, there's a little window at the top which shows you how much midden you're actually going to get, which is sort of essentially your waste at the end of the round. And then at the bottom, it'll actually, the further along you need to progress this slider, it starts accumulating negative points as well. And the game is really simple. It's essentially 3 turns over a round, and then it goes for 4 rounds. At the end of each round, you have to make sure you have enough food to feed your villagers, and then you also have to account for all your wastage or your midden. And so you might have to add more of these midden shells into your inventory. So there's a lot of inventory management, and then one of the actions you can do is you can clean midden out, and you gain a villager. You can also do things like you can build a roof, you can build roofs, and so for every roof you have, you don't have to feed one of your villagers at the end of the round, which is super helpful. And there's all sorts of other things. There's a lot going on. If you ever played Legacy of You, you'll sort of understand, or even similar to Bobby's Hadrian's Wall as well. You're sort of managing things. I'm going to take these 2 things here, put them in my inventory, and then I'm going to use that one, but that gets me these 2. So now I've got to find room for these 2 bloody things. And okay, well, I'm going to cook this. I'm going to cook this sheep. So I'm going to cook the sheep on one of my actions, which gives me 1 food. So now I can use that at the end of the round. But it's also going to produce me a hide, bones, and wool. So I've gone from having a sheep taking up 1 spot in my inventory to now I need 4 spots in my inventory to account for the bones and the wool and the hide. So it's a lot of resource management, but I'm really, really enjoying it. My one gripe on the game, and I haven't checked the Kickstarter to see whether this has been addressed or not, but it's basically just a beat your own score kind of thing. And right. I do like, and to be fair, Hadrian's Wall was similar until Bobby Hill brought out a campaign style one. I think it was over 12 different stories that you'd play Hadrian's Wall, and you had to score at least 70 points, I think. And then the next time you played, you had to include 1 card, or you had to make sure that you got over X amount, but also you did this. So at least you're hitting objectives every time you play. So at the moment, I'm just playing but you start with 9 basic cards, and then there's you draft from a deck of about 12 cards. You draft 3 and choose 1 as your 10th card. So there is one of your village actions is unique each time you play, which does have a slight effect on the game and make you play differently and push and pull you in a different direction each time you play, which is really, really cool. So another hit sort of Garfield game for me. But going back to the podcast, it was really interesting hearing the way Shem talked about the way the game had evolved, and that was the catalyst for me to go, you know what, I really should check it out on TTS. And I had a look at it and I'm absolutely loving it. It's Skara Brae. Can't wait till it comes to retail next year.
I haven't actually listened to the podcast yet, so I would like to try and listen to it, because I really like listening to the background about how they create games and what their thought process is, rather than just listening to about how to play the game. So.
Yeah. Well, these guys, it's funny because I think it was episode 4 that was Skara Brae. They don't typically talk about their own games. Like I said, the most recent one is Scythe. There was another one that, actually, I can't even remember what the other episodes were about. But this was the first one they talked about their own game. So not only are they providing, with all their episodes, they provide insight into the mechanics of the game, but it was interesting hearing his own specific story about the way the game was developed. Their podcast is so much better than ours because they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about.
It's pretty easy to do.
They're just hairy ass kids just fumbling about with the microphone, pretending we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. If it weren't for the editing, I'd be in big trouble. Oh, gosh. Well, I have been spending time with family over the last couple of weeks, which I'm assuming is maybe what you have done over the course of November as well, aside from your writing and your time off. So I had it wasn't quite 2 weeks, but a holiday up to northern Queensland. And when I say that, I mean Bundaberg, that area there. And we rented a house near the water. So it was my husband, myself, and my 3 children. I've got 3 teenagers, 19, 18, and 17. all my three children usually all work. So they all work at fast food retail. So when we're at home in Brisbane, often they're working sometimes 5 nights a week. And this was actually a wonderful opportunity, and it really grounded me a little bit because it made me realise how little time we actually spend together in normal life. My husband works very long hours. He doesn't get home till 8 o'clock. Because they're working in the evenings, we barely get time to even have dinner together. So this was a really great opportunity to spend time together. But surprisingly, we actually played an awful lot of games.
That's great.
I had 2 bags worth of games. These were my hopefuls, and I
Only
made
2?
Sure. Yeah. And I made
light.
sure. Yeah, that's right. Ben, my husband, was given instructions. Don't put anything on top of the games in the car, right on the top of everything. Everything else had to be squished in around it. I made sure that we didn't have anything too heavy, and we played games pretty much every day. And I was really pleased that my daughter, so she's 18, not a gamer. None of my children are really gamers at all. But at the end, we were sort of going over what our highlights were of this holiday. And my daughter actually said the board games. And she said, Mum, I cannot believe I'm actually saying that. But she said that was the highlight for me. I was just so...
Do you think it was the games itself, or just the fact that you're all doing them as a family?
I think it was
the family time that was her favourite thing.
I think it was both. Had I brought out Terraforming Mars, I think I could have had a revolt on my hands. But we did actually play some really great games that I specifically brought that were sort of tailored towards them. And the first one that I did want to talk about is called My Favourite Things. Mm-hmm. Now, this was from a Kickstarter, and Lauren may have mentioned it in last week's podcast, but I don't think she actually spoke about it. So this was part of the String Railway Collection Kickstarter, so Japanese games coming to the rest of the world. And it's a trick-taking party game, and it was probably the favourite game of our holiday.
Wow.
It plays 3 to 6 players, and I'm going to explain it. I hope I explain it well enough. So each player has a dry erase marker, a topic board where you're going to write a specific topic, and then you've got these dual trick-taking cards in sleeves. So when you get the game, you'll have a card that has numbered 1 to 5 or a little broken heart symbol, and then you'll put another card in a sleeve on top of that so that the front card can slide up and down and it can block the number, but you can still see what's written on the card. Mm-hmm. And you get that all comes in the box. And each player will choose a topic, and a broad topic. It actually comes with a set of cards in the box, but you can choose any of your own topics. So an example might be cheese or something like that. And you will hand it to the player on your left or your right, whichever way you're going first. And that person will secretly write their top 5 things or top 5 cheeses on each of these cards, and then cover them up so that the person who you're going to be handing them back to doesn't see what number they're attributed to. And then on the broken heart card, you're going to write a cheese you don't like.
Right.
So then you're going to hand those back to the person. And now each person, so there were 5 of us, each person will then have written a different topic for each different person. So you all have different topic. Like my husband may have had birds or something. And then at one point my daughter it was quite funny, had swear words.
Nice.
And so
everyone's got a favourite swear word.
That's right. So, but not that I want to know what it is, Dan. I don't want to know what my daughter's swear words, what she likes to use.
I'm sure butter wouldn't melt in her mouth.
Of course not. Of course not. So then after that, you're going to hand the cards back to the person, and then they have to play tricks with these cards. So if I were looking at my cards, I would have, if I handed my husband the topic of cheese, I would have handed back to me Brie, Mercy Valley, cheddar, whatever, and that's all I'm seeing. So I don't know which is number 1 or which is number 5. I just have to guess based on how well I know, my husband. And then you're going to play into the trick. 1 being the highest, by the way. 1 wins the trick. If, however, a 1 is played and someone plays a broken heart card, then that wins the trick. Whatever is the lowest number. So first player will maybe play, let's say I played the Brie, and next my husband has got tennis stars or something like that. So he plays Roger Federer. And so we're all trying to play numbers based on these different favourite things lists, but we're trying to each work out which number we're playing. Well, Mum played a Brie. I know Dad, well, he likes Brie, so that could have been the number 1. But what's Roger Federer? Federer could be, no, that would probably be a number 5. So you're playing all these different topic cards, not really knowing what number it is. And so when you finish the trick, you'll have Roger Federer, Brie, F-U-C-K.
Yeah.
So,
and a pelican.
And a pelican. And what you do is at the end, you lift the card up and you reveal what number was what. Inevitably, you have the usual arguments about, what, you like Roger Federer? Who said you could use that word? You can't use the F word. That kind of thing. So it's that kind of banter. And then whoever won the trick gets a heart. And you play 5 tricks and you don't play the final card. And then collect the cards up, rub everything off, and then you're going to do a second category that you can pick, and you're going to pass that to the opposite side.
Okay.
So it's quite handy if you kind of know the people beside you. Like, it would be a difficult game, I think, to play with strangers. You would want to play with people that you kind of know. Probably the funniest moment, one of the topics my daughter played had fears, and her fears were like super dark. One of them was being abducted, and then electrocution, drowning. And it was so funny because all the other topics, one of the other topics was letters of the alphabet. So
your 5 favorite letters of the alphabet.
Exactly. My son decided to pick letters of the alphabet. And believe it or not, my daughter did a very good job at thinking about which letters of the alphabet she likes. So she's trying to compare the letter H to being abducted. It was just a really, really fun game. It's very, very clever. And,
yeah, right.
And the table talk around it was fascinating, and it really brought our family together. And I can imagine in a group of friends or in your game group, this would be a big hit. It was absolutely fabulous. I loved it. And I could sizzle this game, but I've got other games that I want to sizzle. But I could sizzle this game easily. It was awesome. But I'm still confused as to why electrocution is still like her number 1 fear over getting abducted. I wouldn't want to be abducted.
Maybe she thinks she could handle herself a little bit. She's got more of a chance of handling herself if she was abducted than if maybe there's no escape when you're being electrocuted, but you could potentially escape if you're abducted. I don't know. I think, that game could really go into some dark places, but I bet you could learn a lot about your own family as well. So,
yeah, well, that's right. Yeah.
Lucky one of the categories wasn't family members, where they had to list their favourite family members.
Is one of the topics on the cards.
Players. Could have been an absolute holiday breaker. Anyway, speaking of sizzle, I'm actually going to change my sizzle and talk about something off the back of what you just spoke about, because I've played a game recently, which is also like a party style game, and it has dry erase boards. And I think it's relatively new because I've grabbed it. I had heard about it earlier in the year, and I spotted it at Mind Games earlier this year and grabbed it and had a chance to play with when some friends came over last night for a games night. And it's a game called Captain Obvious. And this one's really, really cool. It's a word game, which can be paralyzing for some people. I know a lot of people get analysis paralysis on games like So Clover or other ones where you have to write something, particularly when you look up and everyone else has already written theirs and you still haven't written yours. And you're like, oh no. And you feel the weight of everyone watching you, waiting for you to write. But the premise of Captain Obvious is everyone gets a board which flips open and you write your name on the front of the board. And then there's a deck of cards and whoever's going first nominates a number between 1 and 7, and then you flip that card over and there's 7 different words on that card. So whatever number you chose, that's the word that you have to incorporate into a sentence. And then you also roll a dice, and I think it's from numbers from 4 to 9, because I don't remember seeing anything less than 5, but it would make sense. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It would make sense that it's 4 to 9. Maybe it's 5 to 9. There's a double number in there. Anyway, the number that you roll on the dice dictates how many words you must write in your sentence. And what you're doing is you're writing a sentence on your board that has the same number of words in it as the dice and must contain the word that has been chosen, and everyone uses it. So an example one that we had last night was laugh, and it was a 6. So everyone had to write a 6-word sentence that has the word laugh in it. And then once everyone's written that, you hand your board to the person next to you. So everyone rotates their board around once. So you're reading someone else's sentence, and what you do is you rub one of the words out and you make it a blank. So then you have to, and then once everyone's done that, you say, right, I'm going to read Jen's word. I'm going to be reading Jen's sentence. I'm not playing and Jen's not playing because she obviously knows what it was. And you can't rub out the key word. Like if the sentence had to have the word laugh in it and I rubbed out the word laugh, everyone would know that's the word that was missing.
Correct.
You also can't cross out or rub out any article. So you can't rub out a or the or he or something like that. It needs to be a noun, a verb, an adjective, one of those sorts of words. And then once you read the sentence out, you can go beep or you can say blank. It's a race for everyone else to jump in and quickly say what they think the missing word is. But you only get one attempt at it. So the first thing you yell out, if you're right, you win. And then the person who wrote it and the person who guessed it both gets 1 point. But if you're wrong, you don't get to have another crack at it. So it's not fastest finger first kind of thing. But if you're wrong, then you have to sit out while everyone else tries to work it out. And then if no one gets it, then I get a point because I rubbed out a word that no one was able to guess. And the reason why the game's called Captain Obvious is you need to make your sentence as obvious as possible so that no matter what word gets rubbed out, people are still going to guess it.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you make the sentence too obscure and then someone rubs out, then it makes the sentence really ambiguous. No one's going to guess it. So it is just it's a game that's set up for laughs and funny situations. We had one last night where it was a 6-letter sentence, and it was really simple. I laugh when you blank down, and I just went break. It's like no, not when you break down. It was the first thing I thought of when I and then Jen goes fall, and she goes yeah, the answer was fall. So then Jen gets a point, and Meg got a point because it was her sentence. Another one was another one. It was just I blank on the television, and someone just wrote spit. I was like no. What do you mean spit on the television? It's like, sorry, and then it was like turned. It's like, yes, turned on the television. There's a couple where no one got it. It's funny. There was one where there was 3 of our sentences were very, very similar, but every person rubbed out a different word. I think it was to do with hammers and nails in the blank into the wall. Hammered the nail into the blank, and anyway, there was 3 instances where it was very, very similar, but a different word was rubbed out every time. So it's just a really easy game. You play first to 10 points. I mean, but it's one of those games that you don't have to play to points if you don't want to. You just keep going round and round till everyone's sort of their cheeks are sore from laughing or they're sick of it and they want to play something else. Much like Clover or Telestrations, you could easily play it where the points don't actually matter.
That sounds awesome.
And I also think we played it with 5, but I really think it would be better. I think the box comes with 8 or 10 boards, so I think it's one of those games that would actually benefit from like a max player count.
Yeah.
Because then everyone gets a turn. But it was a lot of fun. I'd definitely check it out. I don't think it was expensive. I think it was like $35-$40 when I bought it earlier in the year. So yeah, Captain Obvious is if you're looking for another sort of fun party game, I really, really think it's a good one.
Oh, fantastic. Well, see, now that my kids are like gamers, because I've converted them, I'm going to have to buy something like that because that would be right up their alley.
Yeah.
So that sounds awesome. Fantastic. Now I'm intrigued as to what your sizzle is going to be.
Oh, okay.
Now that you've changed it.
Yes.
But another game that we played, have you played the original Magic Maze?
Yes.
Before? Yes.
I've actually pulled it out recently to put it on my to sell pile, but I am a fan. I don't think I'm going to get my boys into it.
Oh my God, that game I tell you what, I could have thrown that game at my children when I did play it with them. It's for those who don't know about Magic Maze, it's a cooperative game, and you've only got one particular movement that each person can do, and you're working your way through a maze trying to get to an exit. But in the game, you can't talk, and it's timed. And it's really, I would have thought, designed for younger people. But, oh, my God, it's so frustrating with children. And we had, like, full-on meltdowns over this game. And there's this big red wooden pawn, which the idea with this red pawn is if someone is not moving or doing the right thing and you obviously can't communicate with them, you can put this red pawn in front of them. And I tell you, I was ready to shove that pawn somewhere.
It is the most passive-aggressive game piece in all of board gaming. Have you ever seen someone slam it down in front of someone or just bang it in front of them repeatedly? And if they're doing it to you, it's like, what am I missing? What do you want me to do? Because they can't tell you. And then suddenly it's like, oh, you want me to move that guy north? Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Well, with kids, in my experience, it's awful. That red pawn was dented. It had dents in it. So that was a very early sell. But anyway, since then, they've come out with several variations, but the latest one is called Magic Maze Tower, which we actually got from BR Distribution, which we're very grateful for. And so it's still a cooperative game, but as it says in the rule book, this game is not stressful. So it's not timed, which is great, and you can communicate freely. So there are 5 different pawns, like there's an elf, a dwarf, and the names of the other ones escape me, but they all have different abilities, and the idea is that you're in a tower, in a big room, and you have to get from the entry where your pawns start, or where the pawns start because they're cooperative, to the exits. And each pawn has a special ability. Like some pawns, I think it's the elf, can jump over other characters, or the dwarf can fit through small tunnels. There's one called the sister, which teleports. And it's still the same in terms of each person is given a particular direction, and you can only move any pawn in that direction. So you might have a tile in front of you that says left. That's the only way that you can move. So that's how it's cooperative. So, for example, in a 4-player game, one person would have left, one person would have right, one person would have up, one person would have down. So it's turned into a bit more of a puzzle game more than anything. And it was so nice to be able to do something like this without the added frustration, I think.
Would you say it's more family friendly then?
Oh, yes, very, very much so.
Okay.
You literally just talk about it, take your moves back and keep trying type thing. So it's great. There's actually a lot in the game. You'll be surprised if you do ever buy it or pick it up. There are 76 tiles in the box, and they're big. They're sort of like quite a large square. They're probably a 20 centimetre by 20 centimetre square, and they're double-sided as well.
Right.
So there's actually a lot in the box. And what I really enjoyed is that it comes with a tutorial. So each character has its own tutorial that they get you to work through to teach you how each of the pawns move. And a game consists of either 4 or 8 small quests. One side of the board is blue, and then there you can turn it over. And then once you finish each board, the larger quest, it's called the epic quest, you turn them over and you join them all together. Cool. So you've got this big map that you're trying to work through to get everybody to the exit. And it's really cool because there are red epic quests, and red epic quest cards, like the boards can slide to create new corridors. And then there are also, there's purple as well, and those boards can actually rotate as well. So it's actually really, really cool. It was a much better experience for me than just the regular Magic Maze.
Yeah.
And as I said, it had a lot of value in it. So
it sounds like they've swapped out the time-sensitive nature and increased the element instead. So the only way to do the puzzle element is to actually work together and sort of because although would there be a danger of someone alpha gaming it and telling everyone what to do? Where
I guess in any cooperative game, but
then you married him, so it's your fault.
Well, that's. But at the end of the day, the other person still has to do the movement.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. I mean, I remember learning how to play Magic Maze at a PAX, and so it would have been PAX maybe 7-8 years ago, PAX Australia, and then picked it up. And I think it was the hotness at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess it was like 2017, something like that. But yeah, sitting down, walking past a booth, going, "Hey, you want to learn this game?" They had a big pile of it and played it, and just went, "Yeah, this is brilliant." And got to table a few times with various groups, but you need to pick the right group because some people just can't stand the time nature of it and the passive aggressive dobber where you just put it in front of someone.
Yes,
well, the good thing is you can find those little there's various locations where you can you flip the egg timer or the hourglass.
That's correct.
Around.
Yes, to give you more time.
At the point where you flip the hourglass, you're allowed to talk until someone actually moves their piece for the first time, and then it's complete silence again, so you can use that to your advantage. But yeah, I'm surprised that they're still finding ways to reinvent the game and get more out of this IP, because I know there was the maximum security expansion.
That's right.
And there was
maybe
like 2 or 3
After Dark,
2 or 3 expansions that came out.
I think it was After Dark or something.
Yeah. But even just the premise,
it's awesome.
You've got these Dungeons and Dragon type characters. You've got a wizard and a barbarian and stuff, and they're in a shopping mall. And that was the original premise of the game. That's pretty unique. So.
Yeah, so I was very impressed with it, and the family really enjoyed it. So it's well worth a try if Magic Maze and that timed element doesn't suit your group.
Yeah, that's a good alternative. One last quick game I want to mention for me is a game that you and I played at PAX, and I think we played it with about maybe 7 or 8 of us all around a table, and there was copies of it flying out the door at PAX Australia. It's a game called Flip 7, which is a very basic card game, but we've got a copy here at home. Playing it with the boys, we played it with 6 people on the weekend, and it's great fun. And you'll be interested to know, Dana, that when we played it at PAX Australia, we played it incorrectly.
Because
I had a feeling,
right, you didn't get it. You hardly got any turns.
I had a feeling we were playing it wrong, but it was late in the whole weekend. I think we played it on Sunday afternoon, and I'm just like, let's just go with the flow. Someone had bought it. We cracked it open, read the rules, and away we went. But Flip 7, it's just a basic push your luck game where there's cards from 1 to 12 in the deck, but there's only 1. There's 2 2s, there's 3 3s, there's 4 4s. And at any point during the game, you say hit me and you flip a card, or you can say bank and you stop. And then you're at whatever points you've got in front of you. So the good thing is if you've got 10, 11, and 12 in front of you, then that's going to be 33 points. But also, if you want to hit, then the chances of another 10, another 11, another 12 coming out, obviously they're the most frequent cards in the deck, so the chances of you busting are higher, because as soon as you get 2 cards of the same value, you are out and everything goes back into the discard and you don't score for that round. There's also a couple of action cards in the deck. One of them is called Freeze. One of them is called Flip 3, which means you must flip the next 3 cards. Freeze means then you have to just stop playing. Whatever you got in front of you, that is it. It's like a forced bank. Another one is a second chance, and there's 3 each of these action cards. And the second chance means that you can't bust. If you flip and you get a pair, then you lose that one of the card you just flip goes to this card. Second chance goes into this card. If you happen to get a second chance card, you have to give it to someone else. But the good thing is with the freeze card and with the flip 3 cards, if you flip it, you don't have to take it. You can impose it on someone else. You can force someone else to flip the next 3 cards over, which could actually help them. They could get 3 unique values in front of them. The first person to get 7 unique values in front of them, which is why it's called Flip 7, the round stops stops automatically, and they actually get a bonus of 15 points. So that's the carrot on the stick to keep flipping. But when we were playing it, we were going, okay, Dana, do you want to flip or hit? And you go flip, so we'd flip. Okay, right now, what do you want to do? Do you want to flip or hit? Flip, and you keep going. No. You go around one at a time.
Oh, okay.
You go around one at a time. Because the issue we had was if the first person, if they go, right, hit me, flip, hit me again, flip, hit me, suddenly they get 7 unique cards. The round's over and no one else has bloody played.
That's right.
And I don't know why it didn't dawn on us at the time that we were playing it wrong.
I knew it was quite highly regarded, and I thought, surely there's something wrong with
I think it debuted at Gen Con. A lot of people coming out of Gen Con, a lot of reviewers going, this is like game of show. Like everyone was having an absolute blast with it. So, But in terms of just a really simple card game, a really good push your luck, Ollie's 5 and he actually won because it's just complete luck. Funny enough, there was one of our guests, Tanya. She was on 181. First person to you just write the scores down at the end of each round. First person that gets to 200 wins. So she only needed 19 points to actually win the game. And so as soon as someone got a freeze card, they just dropped it on her. So she was out for the round, basically. Yeah. So that gave us a chance to catch up. And our scores really, really crept up to 200. But then she actually, as soon as she got, there was one round where she got about 20, 25 points. So she went, I'm going to stop. So she banked that. So she knew she was over 200. That was it. And it was just a matter of us chasing her. And Ollie's just like, hit me. Hit me, flip. Yeah. And to the point where then everyone else had been knocked out because at the point we all knew Tanya was going to win. So we were just really pushing our luck to try and catch her. Everyone else was out. And Ollie goes, hit me. And he copped the flip 3. And there was no one else left in the game for him to give it to. So he had to do it. So he flipped the next card over, which was a card he didn't have. The next card over was a ×2. Oh. And then the last card he flipped over was actually another individual card. So he actually got 7 individual cards, add them all up, multiply them by 2, then add the 15-point bonus for getting a flip 7, and he actually beat Tanya's score. He came out of nowhere, and he was doing a dance around the kitchen table.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's moments like that in those sorts of games where...
What a ripper.
Because it's just a push your luck game. Anyone can win, and you can have a couple of bad runs. I think my total score was 30. I think there was only 2 rounds where I didn't actually bust. But it's such a simple little game. And, definitely Flip 7 is one that we'll be getting to the table a lot over the Christmas holidays, I think.
That sounds like a good stocking stuffer.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Hey, if you love dexterity games, you need to check out Planet Peter, a new fun space curling dexterity board game designed by Spiel Lab from Japan. It's live on Kickstarter, and this is the first time the game will be available outside of Japan. In Planet Peter, send your aliens flying to the planet surface with just a simple flick and try and land your aliens in clusters. Flip over the magnetic alien to have it magnetize and grip onto the planet's surface to try to avoid being knocked out. But watch out for Jammer, because he'll come around and hoover up the strong aliens in his region and send them to the black hole. Now, the game comes with magnetic alien discs, and the board and the tokens are made of a unique material that magnetizes to the aliens. Planet Peter's campaign ends on December 19th, and you can support them on Kickstarter by searching on Kickstarter for Planet Peter or for Magnetic Flicking Game. So if you love dexterity games, make sure you check out Planet Peter by Spiel Lab on Kickstarter now.
I'm intrigued to know what your sizzle is.
So my sizzle for this week is a game that I had sit on my shelf of shame for 6 years.
Oh my God.
It would have been 6 years. I had a look at it. I first backed this on Kickstarter in 2018. And it was one of the very first games that I backed on Kickstarter. It just sounded like it was my jam. It was being billed as the new Cluedo. It's deduction, it's solving a murder, and it's a game called Awkward Guests. And it's funny because when the guys that came over last night to play, they were going through my collection and they went, "Oh, what's this? This sounds interesting." Because she was pulling stuff off the shelves and having a look, and I mean, "Oh, it's like Cluedo." She goes, "Oh, I love Cluedo." I said, "Well, it's better than Cluedo." And she goes, "Oh, can we play this next time I come?" And I'm like, "Absolutely! I haven't played it yet. I'm aware of it, and I think I do recall going to someone's game night and we had it ready to go, and we didn't end up getting around to it, and I was really disappointed at the time because I wanted to have a crack at it. It's basically, when I say it's Cluedo, it's the best parts of Cluedo without all the parts that you hate. So there's no dice rolling. There's no you moving around a board and then someone picking you up and moving you to the bloody ballroom because they want to accuse you with the knife in the ballroom, which is one of the things I always hated about. This is all done with cards. The game itself comes with, I think, about 70 different cases in the back of the book, but there's an app as well, which has a truckload more cases in it. I'll get to the app in a minute. But basically what you got to do is you need to set up the game when you start, and it can be a bit of a bear, but it is really, really quick. If you keep your cards in order, and I'm used to playing 7th Continent and 7th Citadel, which has like nearly 1,000 cards in it. So I have no issue with going through and, okay, to set this case up, you need card 1, card 5, card 6. You also need card 13, 14, 17, 23, 26. There's 70 cards in total. And those 70 cards are all clues as to this predetermined mystery. It's always the same guy that gets murdered. It's Walton who dies in the study, but you don't know who did it. There's six characters, 6 suspects. You don't know how. There's always there's always a weapon, and there's always a motive, and each suspect has 3 potential motives. And so you'll get clues during the game. The motive, the police said there was no evidence of blackmail. So anyone who's one of their 3 motives is a blackmail, you can cross that off your little scorecard. Each of the weapons that can be found in a room in the house, they leave 2 different trace evidence. Some of them might leave a bruise, some of them might leave blood, some of them might leave an oily residue. Like the wrench that's found in the garage actually leaves a bruise, but also an oily residue. So there's all the different things you might get clues of, and you can start ruling things out. With this deck of cards, everyone gets dealt 6 cards. And so straight away, you start the game, you've got a sheet in front of you, which is essentially like your score pad, but it's got all the stuff laid out for you. It's got a map of the house, it's got your suspects, it's got the different weapons and the different motives of each suspect. And with these 6 cards, with the 6 clues, you start crossing things out because you're essentially trying to, for the most part, use the evidence, the clues you have to eliminate certain things. There will be certain things that will tell you what was used, but it's never usually definite. Whereas if it's something you can eliminate, it's usually definite. There was no trace of bruises, so you can eliminate every weapon that potentially leaves a bruise, and your pad in front of you tells you what those weapons are. Or it'll be that there was no, like I said before, there was no evidence of blackmail, so you can cross out any motive of a suspect that has blackmail. But then the way the game starts is you choose someone to start, and then they will nominate a room in the house that they want some information on, and a suspect, one of the 6 suspects they want information on. And all your clue cards in the top right corner have either a name, a room in the house, or a person that clue relates to. So you actually say, well, they want evidence on the Berwick sisters, and they want something on the library. So you go through all the cards you have and go, okay, well, I have this on the library, I have this on the Berwick sisters. And then on the other corner of the card, it has like an evidence value. So if it's a really crappy clue, it might have an evidence value of 1. If it's a really juicy clue, it might have an evidence value of 3. And so you can actually go, well, I will offer you this clue, and it's valued at 3. And so if they want to take that clue from you, they must give you clues from their hand that are also equal to that value, 3. So it's an exchange. So they're getting what they want. They're getting some clues that they're specifically asking about, but they don't get them without giving you something else in return. So if you want, you don't have to actually offer a juicy clue. You can just say, sorry, I can't help you. You're not allowed to offer someone a clue that's not specifically what they're asking about. So they'll always, if you're the one requesting clues, you'll always get clues that you're specifically asking for evidence of. But people don't have to give you if they don't want to. If they want to, this is a great clue. I don't want anyone to know this one. I'm going to keep it. But then if no one offers you any clues, you get to take 3 cards straight off the top of the deck in the middle of the table, which then you'll get more information that no one else is privy to. And then once you've done that,
that's a really good thing.
Yeah. And then once that's happened, you're allowed to, if you want, have a crack at guessing it. And very early in the game, there's no point in doing that. But to jump to the end, when it's time to guess who you think the murderer was, their motive, and what the weapon was, you use the app. So whereas if you've ever played Cluedo and it's time to guess, you open up the envelope and you go, okay, I think it's the ballroom with the dagger and it's Miss Scarlet. And then you have a look at it and you go, oh, crap, I'm wrong. Well, now you're out of the game because you've just seen what the answers are. Whereas with this, it just tells you if you're right or wrong. And if you're wrong, then you have to sit out the next turn. But you're not out of the game. You can jump back in one round later, which I think is a great way of using an app to actually, so there's no player elimination. Yes, you get to sit out and you don't have to declare what you're guessing. So no one knows sort of how close you were or weren't. It just basically goes, it gives you a round of applause if you get it right. or it goes mwah, 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 if you're wrong, which can be really humiliating because everyone hears that. But the other thing with the game, as well as the clues and stuff, is with there's a map of the house, and this is a really, really cool thing that I like. It's not just the clues you're getting is not just about the three things that you have to find at the end of the game. It gives you a map of the house, and every person starts in one room of the house at the bottom of the house, and then there's different paths to get to the study, which is the top of the house, so the northern tip of the house, where the body is found. And so some of the clues you get in the cards will be no one passed through the kitchen. And so you sort of cross that off on your list, you cross that off on your map. So you know that no one went from, say, no one has gone from the ballroom through to the bedroom because no one passed. Service staff said no one passed through the kitchen. Or service staff says there was two people. At the time of the murder, there was two people in the ballroom. And then you might get another clue later on saying, well, Mr. Morrow or something says he was with Mr. G in the ballroom. And so all that, okay, well, that actually matches up with what the service staff said. There was two people in the ballroom. And then it's like, okay, well, the service staff says that they saw, or that they didn't see Mr. M or Mr. or Miss C. I can't remember their names, but they've all got letters. There's A, B, C, M and S. Didn't see them come through the vestibule. So you can go, okay, well, I know they didn't come through here. Because one of the things that the cases we did two cases last night. The first took us about an hour and a half because we were still getting a feel for it. And then afterwards we just went, geez, that was good. Can we do another one? So I sort of broke down the cards, put them back in order to the box, and then set up the next one while they were getting dessert ready. And we did the next one in about 45 minutes. Now, granted, they were the easy games of the 70 that are in the book. It just starts to, as you start going through the deck and getting these clues in circulation amongst all the players, things start to fall into place with the clues as you're writing them down. And that means that they couldn't have gone there and they couldn't go. One of them was that there was one girl said that she was in the room with this other girl, and then the service staff, then we got a card that went into circulation a bit later on saying the service staff said there was only one person in that room, and it's like, well, one of them was definitely lying, and it's like, who was it? And then there was another one where there was two people in this room, but then the service staff says they didn't go in here and they didn't go in there. So if they didn't go through this room, they didn't go through that room, then they couldn't have got to the study. So then that eliminates both of them. They couldn't have done the murder because they didn't pass through this hallway. They didn't go through around that way of the house. And it was just good because the very first time we played it, we all got these 6 cards and the clues, and we were writing it down going, I don't know, this doesn't mean a whole lot. How are we going to solve a mystery out of this? And then as we start going through the 70 cards and they start going into circulation, and there were a couple of clues where I didn't share with anyone. And at the end of the round, what happens is you draw, because everyone starts with 6, but at the end of the round, not everyone has 6 cards each. You might have 7, I might have 5. It's just the way that they've been shared during the game. Everyone draws down to 3. So you discard the rest, and then everyone draws 3 more off the deck, so we draw back up to 6. So you can actually keep a clue to yourself during the round, not share it with anyone, and then bin it at the end of the round so no one else knows what you knew about that particular clue if it was a really, really juicy one. But some of the other clues do sort of go into circulation, and invariably some people know things that no one else knows, and it was just such a fun experience. And I'm so glad I finally got it at the table, but it's exactly what you want from like a murder mystery game. And I think it's probably one of my favorite deductions. Like, I love Loot of Lima in terms of like the Finding the Hidden Treasure game. That's an all-play game. And I know there's Search for Planet X is another really well-loved deduction sort of games. But Awkward Guess, if you love your murder mysteries and that kind of, and it's a really unique sort of mechanic on having the evidence and sharing it with it. But if I'm going to give you this clue, which is worth 3 points, you got to give me 3 points worth of clues in exchange. And you don't know what's valuable to me, but I know what's valuable to you because you're asking specifically for something about this person and this room. And geez, it was. And
you want to make sure as well, when you are offering clues, you want to make sure that you're trying to give someone something a little bit juicy, because if someone's got 3 1s, I'm less likely to pick that than I am to pick a 2 and a 1.
You can do a bit dirty, go, okay, well, I know you gave me this one, so I'm going to give you this one back. Or I'm going to But the other thing is if you want to at the end of the round, if you want to discard the high value clues because they're juicy, that means you're keeping low value clues, which doesn't give you much bargaining power in the next round. If someone goes, well, I want 2 clues that are worth 4, it's like, well, exchange with you because I don't have
Yeah.
4, so I'm not going to get anything good, particularly when it's something that I want. I want to know about Abigail and I want to know about the garage. She goes, well, I've got 2 cards here that are worth 4. And it's like, crap, I don't have any high value clues to trade with you because I hid them all from you.
Yes,
so
that's right.
you got to weigh up sort of that decision space. Do I keep something that's really valuable and let someone else know those clues, or do I bin them and keep them to myself? But then I've lost some good bargaining chips later in the game.
I have played this game a number of times, and I remember when I first played it, I did have a lot of difficulty trying to discern what clue was factual and what was just someone saying something.
Yes.
And I found that quite challenging in the game, and I didn't quite get it. But once I had played it a couple of times, then I sort of understood, okay, well, when the service staff say something, it's legit. It's legit. Yep. And, if someone says, oh, I saw this person there, it's just a thought.
Well, the other thing is in the later levels, and we didn't venture into the medium and the advanced ones, but in those ones, there's actually an introduces an accomplice. So while they won't be the murderer, they may lie to protect the murderer. Yeah. And so now suddenly you don't know who to believe, and it makes things a lot more complicated. So we didn't venture into that. Maybe we will at a later stage. But yeah, geez, I've never been so absolutely wrapped to play a game that is totally my jam, but also just to get it off my shelf of shame and go, I knew it was going to be good. I just knew it. And I'm already looking at the sequel. There's one called the Berwick Sisters, which is actually designed for 2 players specifically. And it's something to do with, because the Berwick Sisters are one of the characters in the game. But this one is a Walker Quest 2, the Berwick Sisters, I think.
The Berwick. Is it Berwick or Berwick?
Berwick. I think it's Berwick. There's a suburb in Victoria that's we pronounce it as Berwick. The Berwick cases. But it's like you're trying to solve a murder while covering up your own. So I'm not quite sure how that works, that dynamic. You're trying to solve your opponent's murder while not letting them know how your murder goes. I can't remember how the cards would even work, but I'll definitely be chasing that down. And I know that the company, they did also bring out another game that was something around
Scandalo.
Paparazzi, or
it's called Scandalo, I think.
Scandalo, yeah. I remember seeing
Scandalo. I have not played it.
I remember seeing Thinkathema review it on their channel, and they loved it. So
I think what lets it down, unfortunately, Awkward Guest, and people just pass by it because of the artwork.
I like the artwork.
Yeah, it's sort of in that sepia
monochrome sort of cartoony sort of.
And it, if you pick it up off the shelf, you probably wouldn't pay it much attention.
But I think for a game that, and like I said before, some people would sort of balk at there's a bit of a bear to set up and pack down. But like I said, I'm used to sorting cards with all most of the games, my top 10 are all card related games. But you definitely get bang for your buck in terms of the replayability. There's so many cases just in the book itself, and now the app has exponentially more as well. It's definitely worth a look. Deduction and murder mysteries and that sort of thing is up your alley. You'll never play Cluedo again.
Awesome. Great pick. Well, my sizzle. I actually have 2, but I don't think we're going to have time to do 2. But I was just so excited to talk about games after this holiday that I did have 2. But I'm going to pick this one. And funnily enough, it's a deduction game as well. But this is something that I have never played before, this type of game. So this game is called Light in the Mist, and it's by a company called Post Curious. And they do mainly puzzle games, and they call them puzzle tales. They often have a puzzle accompanied by a narrative. So they have actually just recently done a Kickstarter, which I'll tell you about at the end. But this is something that I have had on my shelf for quite a while. It's probably been a year, but I decided to take it away with us. And I was just really lucky on this occasion that my 19-year-old son, who's quite cluey, just really took to this game. And it has actually, I will say that we're only 3/4 of the way through it, but because we're doing our top 10s and then it's the end of the year, I had to talk about it. I just wanted to tell everybody about it. Some people might not even say it's a game, but I think it's a game, similar to, say, an escape room game or something like that. But they call it a puzzle tale. So your friend Sam has mysteriously disappeared, and she's left behind a set of tarot cards. So it's a character-driven narrative story, and it's told through this deck of cards. And these cards contained within this deck of tarot cards are puzzles. Now, Dan, this is your jam.
Oh, yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Jam. So I can't say much, of course, because I can't give much away.
Sure.
But I'm still gonna tell you as much as I can anyway. So as you work your way through the deck of cards, and you can choose in any order you wish, you solve each tarot card's puzzle, and each solved puzzle will take you to a new page in like an accompanying book, and you're sort of encouraged to go at your own pace and follow your instincts. During the game, you'll be collecting items into your backpack. Sometimes you might loop back on yourself as well, and you just keep uncovering more as you venture further into the woods. So I would say this game, now we're only 3/4 of the way through it, and we're probably at the 4-hour mark.
Wow.
But I would say 5 to 6 hours, something like that. But I would say that my son and I are not experienced puzzlers. So that could be a factor as well. So during this whole time, you're solving these puzzles, but at the same time, you're building up a complete picture of your friend Sam and her life that's told through these little narrative, I'll call them glimpses. So as you solve a puzzle, it'll just start from just a moment in her life, and you'll just be finding out little snippets of her life and why she's disappeared. And the writing is really lovely, and it's only short snippets, but it's written really, in my opinion anyway, it's written really well, and it didn't take away from, you know how sometimes in certain games when there's a lot of descriptions and writing, it can take away from the actual game, and you end up sort of just, you know, with a group of people, you end up just sitting there waiting for someone to finish reading. It wasn't
someone reads
like that.
The next 3 pages of story.
3 pages. Yeah. It wasn't like that. It was a really captivating little snippet. So there are 22 puzzle cards, and there are 56 supporting tarot cards. And I don't know if you're looking at it on BGG as I'm talking to you, but this deck of cards is one of the most beautiful deck of cards I've seen. It is a fully functioning tarot deck as well. And so each card you choose will be referenced, and let's say the first card you pick, say card number 1, you'll look at the back of the book and it'll reference, take out card X, Y, Z. You'll take out those cards from the tarot deck and you'll place them out in front of you, and then you'll read like a passage, and that will give you like a starting point. It's quite cryptic, but it will give you a starting point for the puzzle. The puzzles are sort of really nicely varied, and when you look at the cards, you will be able to see that the cards are actually used like multiple times. Each card has got parts of lots of other puzzles all on it.
Yeah, right.
But you have to identify what is used in the particular puzzle that you're working on. And it's just, I don't know, it was captivating. I could only describe it as captivating. Now, I didn't find that I was just completely bamboozled.
Yep.
But on occasion, we have needed hints. And I will say that the hints are actually done really well. So you can find the answers in the back of the book, but I wouldn't say that that's ideal because it's obviously got a list of answers. So there's a QR code in the book, and it lists all the cards. So you can type in the card number and it'll tell you how many answers. And the answers, by the way, are all words. They're all words. You're looking for either one word or a series of words, and it will give you the number 2. So you know that there are 2 words that you look. If you need to go further, it gives you these lovely progressive hints, but they're just tiny little hints. So there's nothing worse than getting a hint and it just tells you the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it is really good. It might say, can you see that there's something in the corner up here? What do you think about that? For example, that might be a hint. And it just points you just in the right direction, but doesn't tell you what it is. And then you could click on the next one. And so you might have about 10 prompts
Cool.
in a puzzle, which is really great. And then, of course, you can get the answers if you like. I really enjoyed that you can actually, it also gives you a list of selected puzzles that if you are inexperienced, start with these ones first, and then you can sort of go from there, which is what we did.
Yep.
But you can actually go in any order.
I love that.
And
that it's not actually like a full, 1, 2, 3 step process, but you can sort of freeball it if you want and just tackle it at your leisure.
So there is a way that if maybe you are really experienced and you wanted to challenge yourself, you literally, they say that you could do it without reading the prompt, for example, and you could just try and find the answer. But I think that would be quite difficult. But as I said, I'm only a beginner, but I didn't find the prompts that gave away too much or whatever. It maybe pointed us in a general direction, but in a nice thematic way. Because as I said, the idea is that you've got this old woman sort of talking to you as you're exploring the woods through these tarot cards, and it's just so beautiful. And it can be like, this is the perfect game that can be re-gifted as well.
I was going to ask you that you're not actually you're not scarring or marking the cards at all, are you?
Well, there is one portion where you are writing the words or the answers that you get, and you're collecting items in your backpack, but they do provide 2 of them.
Okay.
They do provide 2 of them so that you can re-gift it to someone. This
or, as you say, keep the deck as a tarot deck, because the artwork's lovely. I'm looking at it now, yeah.
It is just beautiful. And this game, when we came back, because obviously I mentioned that we were on holidays and we were playing a lot of games, I missed this game. It was like that. I missed not playing it. And so my son and I, in between him working and me doing other things, we have been trying to sort of tackle the last little bit of it.
I caught up and find with these kinds of games that it does help to actually go away, put it away, and then revisit it. And you're coming to it with fresh eyes and going, oh, of course. Why didn't we stared at that card for an hour last time. How do we not see that, that's right there, or this equals that? And then suddenly you get a bit of momentum and you start moving through the puzzles that were sort of a bit of a mystery to you last time.
Yeah. So this is interesting because I did read a review about someone who had played through it twice, but with 2 different groups, and they got quite the different experience, which is interesting depending on the order that they played the cards in. So this company, as I said, Post Curious, has recently just done a Kickstarter, and it is finished. And they had a product called the Ministry of Lost Things, and they've actually done several puzzle products, and you can actually pre-order it from Allplay if you just go to the Allplay website, and it's from Australia. So there is another game that we did play as well, a similar one called, it's not similar, it's different puzzles, but called the Morrison Game Factory.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, so that was also wonderful, but I haven't finished it yet, but it's going in my top 10 games. I'm just telling you now.
Wow.
It made that much of an impression.
That's good.
On me. So I will definitely send it to you when you're done, because you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. This year I've fallen down a massive rabbit hole with sort of those style puzzle games, and also the TTRPG stuff that Laura and I have talked about as well. So, yeah, this definitely sounds like it's sort of in my wheelhouse. I had a couple of books that I got from my birthday, actually. Jen, I can't remember whether she went to a bookstore or whether she was, I think she went to a bookstore and she spoke to someone. She got me one called Journal 39, which sort of sounds similar in terms of there's puzzles on every page, and you got to work out the puzzle, and then it gives you an answer, but the answer is a single word that you need to reference later on.
Yeah.
So you'll get to certain puzzles like puzzle 13, where it's like puzzle 6 plus puzzle 7 minus puzzle 8, and it's like, wow, shit, I need to work out what those puzzles are before I can work out what this puzzle is, and just such really, really clever little things. And I'm fascinated how people can use tarot cards or books, or there's a deck of cards lost in the shuffle or something that I sizzled sort of a few months ago as well. Just people are just creatively reinventing this puzzle sort of genre in new and unique ways. I'm definitely interested in the tarot card style. Yeah,
it's this has sort of like reinvigorated me a little bit because it's taken me in a direction that I had never been before. So it's just given me a little bit of a lift, something new and different. And I'm so excited to finish this game and also play. I actually have another Post-Curious on the shelf called Adrift, and I'll be playing that as well. But it's as I said, it's just a new genre, and I'm really excited about it.
Maybe you can go back and have another crack at the PlayCon puzzles.
I remember when you posted those in our little chat, and I looked at them. I had no clue what on earth any of those answers were. I just went, this means absolutely nothing to me.
Yeah.
So yes, I'll have to have a look at that.
They were a lot of fun. That was obviously what inspired me to create those PlayCon puzzles as well, was just obviously being immersed in all these different little puzzly books and whatnot. There's actually a postcard one that I've just was sent recently to playtest. There's a guy in Perth that's doing them. Mystery Unfolds. He does these PlayCon. He does these puzzle postcard series that he kickstarts and stuff, and I actually got a copy to play test for him. So yeah, I love it. There's a lot of clever people out there.
But yeah, anyway, so that was Light in the Mist by Post-Curious.
It's going on the list.
Yeah, put it on the list.
Purchase pen's out.
Well, you don't need to put the purchase pen out. I'm going to give it to you.
Right.
But I'm just going to say the Light in the Mist one, you have to give it back. I'm sorry.
No, that's cool.
I have to send it back because the tarot card deck is so beautiful. I want to keep it. So, yeah.
I'll look at the deck and I'll see whether it being returned is in your future.
Oh, Lord.
If you want to buy the latest games, there's no better place than Advent Games. They have a huge selection of games with heaps of different categories like light and fun, Euro heavyweights, or hard-to-find games to help you find the best fit for your game night. On top of being a great bloke and an avid gamer himself, Dean provides excellent customer service, is very responsive to questions or inquiries, and offers flat-rate shipping across Australia. So to grab your games, head to adventgames.com.au. That's adventgames.com.au.
Anyway, speaking of PlayCon, we've got some announcements to make. So PlayCon, as we've mentioned, 11th to the 13th of July next year. It'll be here before you know it. Tickets are still on sale. If you go to www.playcon-con.com, there are 3-day passes and single-day passes. And don't forget the T-shirt, which is awesome. So you can order that as well. Also save the date for the Brisbane Game Day on the 1st of March. It's likely that tickets will go on sale in very early January. So keep an eye out for that. Those of you who may not know, the podcast is having a break over Christmas like we do. So next week we'll have our first episode of our top 10s, which is normally 10 to 6, I believe, our 10 to 6. And then the following week will be 5 to 1, and that's on the 24th of December. And then we have our break. And then after that, we'll be back on the 14th of January. So last week's question of the pod was, and this is perfect for you, Dan, because
I know.
you just got something off the shelf of shame. What game are you dying to get off your shelf of shame, and how will you get it played? So would you like to read Facebook?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Jimmy Boss said, I wouldn't mind breaking the seal on Everdell Farshaw that I picked up from PAX 24, or Spartacus that I picked up from PAX 23. Might just have to do the unthinkable and just sit down at the table with the rulebook and do a solo playthrough. Don't knock the solo playthrough. Sometimes it's the only way to get things off my shelf.
Yeah.
Nelly Style, who we love, said, so many Kickstarters have flooded in this year and all still sitting punched but unplayed. I'd like to get Andromeda's Edge played the most, I think. Tamashi is a close second. At least I've gotten to play Dead Cells a ton. That's one I'd like to have a look at.
Yeah.
Christian Suarez said Voidfall. Everyone wants to play it. No one wants to teach it or set it up.
It's the big one.
So I'm sure Def would help you. And Carl von Ostrand said, I've never had anything on my shelf of shame. Inconceivable.
That
How
is
does that even
extremely
happen?
rare.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody.
Maybe he's getting it on technicality. Maybe he's got like a floor of shame or like a bath of shame where he just keeps all of his games in the bath.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
So it's technically not on the shelf.
Not on the shelf of shame.
Then Instagram, we have Board Game Addict UK, Black Forest, and hopefully my game club in January. I wish we could get Black Forest in Australia, but we can't get it at the moment. Erica Carr says, Dead Men Tell No Tales at PlayCon. Last year, I got 6 games off my shelf of shame at that event. So maybe that is a great good event. Yeah, 6 games off your shelf of shame. That is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do the Discord. So quickly, Discord. Draven said, it's not technically on the shelf of shame because I've played it already, but I'm very excited to start the campaign of Arcs. If we're talking pure shelf of shame, then probably El Burro. I thought La Granja was great. La Granja was great, and I've heard this is even better. I've never heard of El Burro before. Manny said, Sniper Elite is at the top of my list. I really find it hard to get these games to the table, though. Hidden Movement, One versus Many. Oh, I love Hidden Movement, One versus Many. Letters from Whitechapel was in my top 10 a few years ago. This one is shameful. Received it for Christmas 6 years ago, and as my interest in the IP has waned, so has everyone else's. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Jean Helix Rose says, Tamashi, just like Nelly mentioned, you'd think for a cyberpunk hacking board game I'd have been all over it like a rash, but for some reason I just can't get it to the table. I will hopefully over my summer holiday. And Spenny said, me and 2 friends do a thing where we take turns deciding what games the 3 of us will play with the agreement before we engage with the fully no matter what and be kind to the teacher. Last week we did Barbarian Kingdoms. This week it was Cthulhu Death May Die. 2 games I enjoyed but would never have played otherwise. And next Monday it's my pick. So I have a time slot, the willing players and a shelf of shame. All I need now is the willpower to learn one of those games before Monday.
That is the major barrier for me, is sitting down with the rule book and learning the game. It's not even necessarily the people to play it. It's just getting the energy or the motivation to learn it.
Yeah, and I think I've become lazier and lazier now that because there is so much
I'd agree with
good content. Hey, you're saying I've become lazy? Well, because there's so much good content out there.
Yeah.
It's just so easy just to pull up YouTube and find one of the content creators that we love and we trust and just look at their how to play video.
Yeah.
And usually the best ones do it so succinctly that
I know.
you get the gist of it so much quicker than ever could with a rule book. And it's easy just to hit the ground running and have the rule book there as a backup. So
I was trying to think of what on my shelf of shame has been there the longest, and I think it is a game called Abyss, which I bought secondhand.
Is that the one with the big gorilla on the front?
Yes,
it's like a blue hue to it.
Yes, that one. It's been sitting there for so long. I bought it because I loved the look of it, and I've heard really good things about it. Z Garcia on the Dice Tower talks about it, and it still sits there. And it's just that there's this constant flow of games, and those ones just become, just go to the top of the list, and that just keeps falling to the bottom. I had a system at one point where I marked with a tag type thing with just like a plastic sticker all the games that hadn't been played, and what I did was I put them on top of the other games on my shelf, and you were not allowed to get the games underneath.
I remember you. Yeah. What happened to this?
But that has slowly just
deteriorated.
It's awful. It's terrible. Yeah, they've all slowly worked their way to the bottom, and everything else is on the top. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully one day anyway I can get that played. So, yeah. So the new question of the pod. It's not a question of the pod because there's no question of the pod.
No, but we thought we'd do a community service.
Yes, that's it. Because I bet you there are people out there thinking, what can I get my partner, brother, sister, husband, whatever, kids, and put in their stocking? What can we do? So if you're stuck for stocking I knew I was going to have trouble with this.
I want to hear you say it 10 times fast.
Stuck for stuffing.
Nah.
Oh, God, hopeless. Stuck for stocking stuffer ideas. Give us your recommendations.
Yeah.
And hopefully everybody will be able to go there and get some recommendations. Try and make them ones that you can actually get.
Something obtainable, something that maybe you think that people have just walked past at their local game store and not given a chance. If there's something that you know that is a great hit, particularly some of the stuff that, like Dana was saying, that you can take on holidays, you can play with sort of all ages. Some of those games can be really, really great. I remember there was one that I talked about years ago, and I haven't really heard many people talk about it much, and it's called Blank. I think it was called Blank. It's basically I'm going to search for it while I talk about it, but it's basically like Uno, where you're just matching the color or the number and playing it. So it's like a ladder climbing game. Yeah, it's called Blank. Came out in 2017. But as well as being a number and a color, it also has something. It has a blank spot on the card where you can write an action or something that you have to do, and it comes with only about maybe 5 or 10 on the actual card. So sometimes it will come up and say name a city, and so you got to quickly name a city or something like that. Whoever you play the game as per normal, whoever wins the game gets to take a texter and choose one of the cards and make up their own action. And so the more you play it as a family or as a group, the more the game actually evolves and becomes your own personal thing with your own sort of niche. So if you've got in-jokes, if you've got something that you go, and it becomes your deck of your deck of blank that your group really play. It's really cheap. It's really cheap to buy, but it's such I thought it was a really unique idea, and it's just a simple card game. You could turn it into a drinking game if you wanted to. You could make the things on the cards really silly if you've got a young family. So it can be animal noises, or run around the table and sit back in your seat, or it can be as crazy or as dirty or as ridiculous or as in-jokey and as you want. The game basically becomes your own personal game. I always thought that was just a really, really cool idea for such a simple card game. And again, it's a perfect stocking stuffer.
No, perfect. That's a good one. I had these ideas only just because I'm into these puzzle games, but there are, if you are into like unlock type games, they have the short adventures. Have you ever heard of those before? They're called Unlock short adventures, and they just go for 30 to 45 minutes. And they were just in limited cards. It doesn't take a big commitment. So that I thought that they would be good as a stocking stuffer.
Yeah, and the other ones, the exit ones, are usually pretty cheap. You can pick them up pretty cheap. And the good thing is, if like some of the exit cards, some of the exit games, you do have to actually manipulate the deck or cut or whatever. Yep. But a lot of them you don't, and so you can actually just put the game back together again and regift it.
Yeah.
Or share it or do a swap or something like that. I know the Deckscape series, which I've talked about before on the show, those ones, it's really just a deck of cards and you can just put them back in order. I had a few of them which I've passed on to Mitch, and Mitch flicked a few my way, and they're really good for sharing as well. So, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what the community says.
I've got one more that I'm going to mention. I was going to talk about it, but we ran out of time. One that I would suggest is Castle Combo. Castle Combo. It's only just come out just recently, and it's a lovely quick filler where you're placing 9 cards in a grid, and depending on where what card you put where will react with another card, and you're trying to just get the most points. It's a very satisfying combo little filler. So I won't go much more into it because we're probably running out of time.
Would you say it has a high degree of combo-tasticity?
Yes. Is it combo? Combo-tasticity. I say combo.
It could be combo-tastic.
Yeah,
but for something to be combo-tastic, it needs to have a high degree of combo-tasticity.
There is. I think it's pretty good. Hence the name, Castle Combo.
Nice.
So, yeah, give that a crack.
Sounds good.
So if you want to support this podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Board Game BBQ. and you can sign up to donate to get access to exclusive podcast episodes that we record just for Patreons. But of course, there's no need to support us financially if you can't do it. There are plenty of other ways to do it. You can tell your friends about us. We'd love you to do that. We'd really appreciate it.
I love it when people join the Discord and they go, how'd you hear about it? And go, so-and-so told us about it. And it's like, great. And then someone says, oh, great. And then that person jumps in and goes, oh, yeah, you finally joined the Discord. Well done. Come join in. Come swim in the game design channel. And we're talking about movies and, yeah.
I'm gonna say that. I keep saying that every time I'm hosting. You really should try and join Discord. It's a great little community. It really is. Once you get used to using Discord, it's a great little community.
You know what I love about the Discord channel? One of my favorite things about the Discord channel is because it has a little bot in there. So if you can actually put your birthday in there, and the bot actually tells everyone when it's your birthday, and everyone just goes, "Hey, happy birthday!" And it's like there's memes and gifs and birthday wishes, and you just get inundated with the community just taking like 30 seconds to wish you happy birthday, and it's just lovely. It's just lovely.
Yeah, no, it is really so. Yeah, anyway, if you get a chance, please do. You can also go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and give us a rating, hopefully 5 stars. You can also just get involved in the community as well. We normally put posts up most days on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, and normally with a question. So let us know what you think, and we'd love to hear from you. So now it's time to discuss what we're fired up about. What are you excited about, Dan?
I think I'm excited about next week's episode because it's going to be the first time in a long time that we've all gotten together, all of us that are left, to be on the final show of the year. I mean, to take everyone behind the curtains, we're actually recording our top 10 all in one hit. We're just going to split it up over 2 episodes for you. But I'm just looking forward to hanging out with everyone next week and talking about top 10s. And what I've actually been doing over the last month, and I've still got a couple games to revisit this week before we record next weekend, is to just revisit every game that was in my top 10 last year, and just see where they sit. Because there's been some movement, and some movement that surprised me. But I'm still excited to talk about my top 10. I'm excited to hear everyone else's top 10. Joe wasn't with us this time last year, so we'll hear his top 10 for the first time.
The first time, yes.
And you've already mentioned that that there'll be a new inclusion in your top 10. So I'm interested to see. Yep. I think Adrian suggested earlier in the year that there's been movement in his top 10 as well. So there's been so many good games this year, and it's always interesting to see how those new games can sort of infiltrate everyone's top 10s. Like I think last year I had 2 brand new entries into my top 10 that were new. I had Inside Job at my number 10, and I think Sky Team was number 7. They were the only 2 games that I played Jazzy that sort of cracked into my top 10. But it's always good to see because we do play a lot of games between the 7 of us. It's always interesting to hear how new games have entered the top 10, or whether they're good but not good enough to crack the 10. So that's what I'm fired up for.
Well, last year, I had a problem with my top 10. It was and remember we did like top 50 at the time.
Yes.
Like it was top 50. Anyway, I struggled with it. I'm quite a loyal person, and I struggle with being disloyal to games. It's very weird.
No, I completely understand.
And I couldn't let go of certain games, even though I don't necessarily play them anymore. I just couldn't let go of them because I owe it to them. It was sort of like that. And I think I sort of overcompensated a bit. So I think there will probably be quite a bit of change in mine.
Yep.
So now that I've got a chance to rethink it.
Yeah. Totally, because you're playing – I might not have played it for a long time. I might not have even played it this year, which is why I'm trying to revisit all of them so I can at least sort of balance out where they sit. I'm just relying on my memory of the game and how much I remember loving that game, and do these new games stack up against my memory of that game. So that was why I wanted to try and revisit all 10 games before the end. So I've only got a few to go.
Yeah, good idea.
So
I'm actually looking forward to a couple of things. I'm looking forward to the top 10s as well, of course, but I am also looking forward to, I'm going on a board game cruise.
Nice.
In January.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to Ellie Beach from Brisbane, and there's about 40 gamers booked on it.
Yep.
And I am not even getting off the boat. I'm gaming the whole time. I'm bringing my husband along, and I told him, don't bug me. Whatever you do, don't bug me. Just do something. Find something to do. So
how big's the ship?
I don't know.
Like what kind of?
Big.
Do you know anything? What's the cruise line?
Carnival
Carnival
Luminosa.
Okay.
There's 8 floors.
Oh, that's
big,
decent.
isn't it?
But it's only going to Ellie Beach.
Yeah, it's 4-day. It's a 4-day cruise.
Okay.
Goes to Ellie Beach and back.
Right.
I am really looking forward to it. And there's a lot of people from the Brisbane community that are going. So I know quite a few people, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Fantastic.
And the other thing that I want to do these holidays is I want to teach my youngest daughter, who's 17, but I want to teach her Lorcana.
Great.
I want to introduce her to Lorcana. So I have enough cards to get some decks going. I'm interested to know, how do you create a deck? Do you just...
I haven't properly created a deck as in like from scratch, but I have taken... from a starter deck, I have actually then had some booster packs, and it's like, I really want to put that into here, and so I've almost taken some out like for like, but I haven't gone from scratch and gone, right, I'm going to put together 60 cards. I haven't done that way before.
Yeah.
But then there's things like, you want a couple doubles in there, so I think you're allowed to have a maximum of 3.
4.
It's 4, is it? Okay,
yeah.
But but if it's a good card, you want a couple of them in there so that you can at least utilize them. Much similar to creating a Pokemon deck as well. So, but I've introduced it to Jack recently, and he loved it. Pokemon is still his first love, and he doesn't get that to the table very often. But we have played Lorcana, I think, twice. And the first time I let him beat me, the second time he actually beat me, and I was pissed off myself for doing it. But but if it means that he enjoyed it and wants to play it again, then I'm all for it. So, and I recently went and bought a bunch of, of course I did.
Of course you did.
The Azurite.
Oh yeah, the new
Seas,
one.
I bought.
And they've announced another one that's coming out as well. I don't know when, but oh god,
it'll be March next year or something. But in fact, I've actually got a couple of enchanted cards here that I'm going to put on Facebook Marketplace and sell, just so I can try and get my money back. They're worth quite a bit. I got some really nice pools.
Okay,
because I don't want to play with them. I'd rather play with the.
I'd rather play with
the standard cards or the foil ones, and then sell the enchanted ones and try and feed my habit.
Good eye. Oh yeah. Sounds a bit like a very healthy habit there.
But I went to Kmart 2 weeks ago, and then I bought all the booster cards they had. Yep. She was like, "How many do you want?" And I said, "How many's in that box? I'll take the box." It's an addiction.
Yeah, that's it.
So
anyway.
Yep.
Well, that's it. It's the last proper episode of the year, like the proper, like a normal episode.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to be a part of it, Dana. So
thank you.
Awesome. It was nice chatting.
Oh dear. And so next week, top 10s, and I look forward to seeing you then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all right. Well, see you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
You know what he said?
Farting in bed.
No.
Oh.
My hump.
Your hump?
My hump. I've got
your lovely lady. Your lovely lady humps.
I've got. Now I'm self-conscious that I've got a hump.
Oh. were you there on the weekend when Notre Dame reopened up? You got to start ringing the bells. Well, half your luck, because I haven't had a hump for ages. So.